Hi, this is Irish from pretendingeverythingisokay.com. I thought I'd make a video because a friend of mine suggested it, and I've kind of avoided it because I am not very comfortable with the way I look. Basically, I feel really old, and that's not very helpful when you're making a video. But anyways, I thought I would do it to give you a little bit about my history. It might be a little choppy because I might have to stop and correct myself a little along the way. But I wanted to share my history with you. It isn't pretty, and I do try to make it kind of funny because if I didn't make it funny, I'd be crying all the time. So here's my history in a little nutshell. I have thought sometimes that there's that old saying that if everybody could put their problems into one pile, then you'd probably go back and pick up your own problems again. Not me. I'm going to wait for the obsessive compulsive person to come and pick every problem up, and then I won't have any problems anymore, and that would be really, really, really nice to get through life without having depression. But then again, that's not really my personality because I am a fixer. I try to fix everybody's problems, even though I can't fix my own. So that wouldn't work for me. I joke that I grew up Catholic to learn guilt, and then in my mid-20s married a Jewish man, and I perfected it. And since I'm not married to him anymore, I still carry around all the Catholic Jewish guilt in the world. Talk about two religions that make you feel guilty. These are the two. I had a kind of tough childhood. I'm not growing up with my family or anything because I have the greatest family ever. But I was like the youngest kid in the class. I couldn't read, and everybody made fun of me, and except for my few girlfriends who are still my friends today, which I'm so grateful for because they've loved me for over 50 years. And how many people can say that they have friends that have known them for 50 years and still love them? I guess I'm pretty lucky about that. I try to count my blessings. Now, in reality, I think it would be a great idea if we could have mental health switch week. That means that all of us with depression and anxiety could switch with the people who have, let's say, obsessive compulsive disorder, and that way they could stay in bed all day and get some rest, and those of us who have depression and can't get out of bed could actually get some stuff done around the house, including wrapping Christmas presents, which is the thing I'm avoiding right now. I can't seem to even get out of bed. If you notice, I'm sitting in my bed right now. This is my safety zone. This is where I stay. This keeps me safe. I don't know why, but it is. It's like my little cocoon. I also think then if we switch with the manic people, maybe we could go to a party and be fun and outgoing and all of that stuff that we sometimes do, but we're putting on that little mask of fun, and we're not really having a good time. We're having like a major anxiety attack, and those people who are manic could stay in bed and get some sleep because they really need it. How about that idea? So that would be one thing I'd really like to see, is like if we could switch our mental health problems for a week or so. If we can't throw them in a pile and get rid of them. You know? That's one good idea, I think. Now, for me, I've been depressed and on disability for probably 9 months now, since March of last 2015, and it's December of 2015. So that's a pretty long time. I've been through an outpatient clinic. I've been suicidal. I've signed up for research projects, and it really got bad in the end of March for me. It got so bad that I went to an outdoor store and I looked at guns, which I keep wondering, well, I hadn't been through an outpatient program, only one of them at that point. But I kept thinking, would they really sell a gun to me? Because would you really, would that show up on a background check? Like, don't sell a gun to this lady because she's been suicidal? And I was looking at all the different guns, and I'm like, well, I can't just buy any gun. I mean, if you're going to shoot yourself, it's got to be a really classy gun. So I looked at a really cute pink gun. I thought, that would be a good one to kill myself. And I looked at the price, and it was $600, and I am so cheap, and I didn't want to leave my wonderful husband with a $600 bill on my credit card for a gun that I used to kill myself, and I thought even if I saved the receipt, he probably couldn't take it back and get a refund, and I'm not sure they'd want to refund a gun that somebody killed themselves with. And I'm also not sure I could even use a gun because my family is totally, and so am I, totally against guns. I don't like guns. I don't think people should be able to buy them as easily as they can. And I understand Second Amendment rights and all of that. But personally, I really don't like guns. And I don't like my children. When they were little, I'd even ask people then, do you have a gun in your house? Because I wouldn't let my kids go over there and play because kids are curious, and I just was scared. But then I thought, well, I know people who have guns, so maybe I could borrow a gun from them. They'd really wonder why I was doing that. And probably not really want to lend me a gun, but it was a thought. But then I thought that would be kind of tacky too, because then when the police brought them back the gun that they owned that I used to kill myself, I'm not sure they'd want it back, and that wouldn't be very nice, and I do worry about other people's feelings. Then I thought, oh, I could go to a shooting range and rent a gun. But then I worried about all the blood and guts and gook that would be at the shooting range, but then thought maybe they could hire an obsessive compulsive person who likes to clean to come and clean up. But I didn't do it. I didn't do it, and I'm glad I didn't do it, because I have 6 beautiful children, and that wouldn't have been fair to them, and my 4 sisters, and my 4 brother-in-laws, and my kids. I just couldn't do it. Although there's still so many days when I just don't even want to be on the planet. Like, I just don't want to be, period. I don't want to kill myself, but I just am sick of being. Like, I want to reincarnate and come back as a cat. Because I think if I came back as a cat, that would be pretty cool. But it has to be an indoor cat that somebody really loves, because I don't want to be a feral cat that nobody takes care of. So that was my other idea, is, like, stop being. So I have done sometimes too many sleeping pills and too many Benadryls, but it really scared my husband one night, and I promised him I would never do that again. So that wasn't a good idea. But this living with depression, I know, is not easy. It's not fun, and it's an everyday battle to get up and get out of bed. Like today, I mean, here it is, 3:30, 4 o'clock. It's taken me that long to even get up, get dressed, take a shower, wash my hair. And yes, I put on some makeup, which I don't usually do every day, but I thought I'd try and make this video. And I didn't want to do it without makeup, because I'd probably scare the bejeebers out of most of you. And I'm not even sure where to look to make this video, so I'm not even sure my eyes are looking at you or not. But I'm doing the best I can here. I'm going to pause again so I can kind of rethink what I'm going to say next. At times just really sucks. And saying that you have depression is really hard, because you are sure somebody's going to judge you, somebody's going to make fun of you. I know at work, I was always the teacher who was outgoing and bubbly and fun and did all this fun stuff and wore hats and greeted my students and just was like, oh yes, here I am. Because I taught special ed, and I always said I was in edutainment. But that's been taken away from me now because I can't work and I'm on disability, and I'm really sad about that. But until I get myself better, I can't even go read to children on a volunteer basis because they'll take my disability away. And that really makes me sad, because I really like reading and I really like children, and I hate telling people I have depression, although I started coming out of the closet, as I said, about this because people need to know. 1 out of every 4 people, and now they're saying maybe 1 out of every 3 people will go through a depressive episode in their lifetime. And if we don't start talking about it and we don't start living up and owning it, then we're not doing anybody any favors, which is why I started my blog. And I know that it really kind of upset people when they read my history, which you can do if you go to my blog, which is pretendingeverythingisokay.com, and you read my history, which is sort of what I'm doing here, but it's not me talking, it's actually me writing. And it might make more sense if you read my writing than me talking. But actually, at a time I was like, oh, I kind of just don't want to tell people that I have depression, so I'm just going to tell them I have melancholia. That sounds so much better, and people don't really know what that is, and it really is just a fancy name for depression, because I keep thinking if I said I had melancholia, people would think I had something wrong with my colon, and who's going to ask about your ass anyways? So I thought, oh, I'll just tell people I'm suffering from melancholia, and then they won't want to talk about it because they're not going to say, oh, your colon's really bad. And then I tell people sometimes, and this is true because I've done a lot of research on depression, that my hippocampus has shrunk, and it's like, oh yes, it's just a tad smaller, like 25% smaller than the average person, which is really hard to have your brain shrinking on you. And unfortunately, you would think that my body would be shrinking too, because I hardly eat. And that's not good either, because eating is very important, and I just have a really, really hard time eating when I'm in a depressive state. Now, some people do the opposite when they're depressed. They eat a lot. But me, no. Unfortunately, I'm not down to a size 4 like I was in my early 20s when I first went through my first major anxiety attack, which was like the worst thing ever. Because this was 30 plus years ago that I had my first anxiety attack. And I thought I was going crazy. Well, I probably was going crazy, but nobody talked about anxiety. I'm sure my mother had it. I'm sure my grandmother had it. I know now that I have sisters who have it, my nieces who have it, my nephews who have it, my own son has it. So I know it's hereditary. That doesn't always make it easier, because I don't think any of them have been suicidal. And I've spent a good part of this last year being suicidal. But in my early 20s, I just didn't know what it was. All it was being scared and being so terrified, and nobody talked about it. And my stomach was always upset. I was always needing to be near a bathroom, and I would never go anywhere where I wasn't in my car, because if I had to leave, so I never went on like regular dates. I'd always say, oh, I'll have you, pick me up, or don't pick me up, I'll meet you there, because I was too afraid to go anywhere, because what happens if I had an anxiety attack in a restaurant, which happened several times. And I don't know, if you've had an anxiety attack, you know what I'm talking about. It's like you want to escape, but you can't escape because you can't escape yourself, which is what you're having the anxiety attack about. So that's pretty scary. And so that was in my 20s, and I've had depression and anxiety on and off for most of these 30 years. I managed, thank God, to get on medication in my early 30s. And I can't help wondering whether I did have, a baby after I was on medication, and worried that maybe, taking the medications screwed her up, but she's pretty normal and outgoing and kind and loving and all the things. I think depression does make you more empathetic to other people. I think that if you have it, you understand that life isn't always easy, and you're less judgmental of people. So I guess I look at it as a double-edged sword, because I do know that I'm more empathetic to other people, and I'm less judgmental of them, because I do have this disorder, and I think I'm grateful for that. I think it made me a better teacher, but it also makes you an easier target, because you take everything personally. Like if somebody yells at you or yells, you think it's your fault. If, your spouse comes home in a bad mood and is kind of snippy, you're sure it's because they're mad at you. Or your kid calls and something's wrong and you're sure you did something or you can fix it for them. Well, I know darn well I can't fix everybody's problem. But that doesn't mean between my two ears that I think that it's not my fault. I sit there and I ruminate about it. Oh, what could I have done differently? Oh, what could I do better? Oh, I'm such a terrible person. Oh, this depression is really bad. And nobody wants to be my friend anymore. And I've tried to help people and they discarded me like yesterday's trash. So that's a huge thing when you have depression, is that you feel like you're pretty crappy and people don't like you and people would not want to hang around with you. But the truth of the matter is I'm finding out the people who really love me. That's the important thing. I've got to focus on the people who really love me, and that's what keeps me from killing myself. And I keep telling myself, I can't do it. It would kill my kids. It would kill my friends. And yes, there are still days where I'm ready to check myself into the hospital. Today happens to be an okay day, not a great day, because I couldn't get out of bed this morning. And I feel like I need to get all this Christmas wrapping done, and I just don't feel like doing it, which is the worst part about depression, because then you feel so guilty about all the things that you're not doing, and that's horrible. You got to quit that. You got to quit making yourself feel guilty about it, because it's not your fault. It's those stupid serotonin neurons in your brain snapping the wrong way, and your hippocampus shrinking on you, and all of those things. That's what you got to keep telling yourself. This is not my fault. This is not my fault. This is who I am. And I'm a good person, and I'm trying hard to be a better person by getting better. Now, depression is an ongoing process, as I said. I kind of like to use the example of like a bodybuilder. I don't know. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger was a bodybuilder for years and years and years, and then he was the governor of California, and I saw a picture of him, and he looked really flabby. Now he's back. I think now that he's not the governor, he's back working out, so he's looking really good because he's back in the movies. But, that's what I like to think of when I think about my depression, is that just like a bodybuilder, it's an everyday process to get yourself better, to get yourself, you're never going to be 100%. There's just no way. I just know for a fact I'm never going to be 100% depression free. Yes, I will have periods of time when I'm not as depressed, and I'll have periods of time when it's not, I guess maybe I haven't had it in so long, but where I don't think about it every day. There have been times in 30 years where I've gone, a couple of years without feeling it. But now it's really bad. So I'm working on it every single day. Maybe not as much as I should. Like when I was in my last outpatient program, they told us that we should be writing down 20 things that we are thankful for every day. And I haven't been doing that. And I think that's probably still a really good idea if I did do that. And living in the moment instead of, I work with my therapist on this. Like, guys, I go to the doctors all the time. I go to a therapist twice a month. I go to a psychiatrist once a month. I'm doing all that stuff. But I have to do the everyday stuff, not ruminating, not getting upset. That was my big thing, is like, I go, well, if, so-and-so hadn't treated me so shitty, then my life would be better. Or if I hadn't been married before, and if that person hadn't been such a jerk, and then my life would be better. But I can't do that anymore. I can't sit there and ruminate about the past, because I can't change any of that stuff. All I can do is be the best person I can be right now. And if the best person I can be right now doesn't get out of bed till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and doesn't have all their Christmas presents wrapped, and can't go out all the time, like, that's okay. If I don't get it done today, I have a big sign in my kitchen that says, if it doesn't get done today, it's okay. And I try to look at that all the time, because I'm like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I should be doing this. But it's okay if I don't, because I'm who I am, and I can't change that. All I can do is be the best person I can be at the time. And not worry about the future, because I can't really change that too much. I mean, I can change my attitude a little bit more, but there's nothing I can do about the past. Nothing, nothing, nothing. It's there, it's done, it's over with, and sitting there thinking about woulda, shoulda, coulda, it doesn't matter anymore. I can't change any of that. Even though I'd like to have changed quite a few things about my past, but I can't. So that's it for today. I thought